Can you tell some things about Latin American missions, since we are supporting it this month as part of our mission work? Wow. The year was 1958. I wasn't even on the planet. I wasn't even being thought of being on the planet. 1958. The church was the Forest Park Church of Christ in Valdosta, Georgia. Now that's the church as it exists today. That was not the church building that they had in 1958, folks. But still, it is the Forest Park Church in Valdosta, Georgia. A group of men took a mission trip to Central America, a place called Panama. If you look on the map, you'll see that Panama is the very bottom country of Central America just before you enter into South America. There it is, blown up just a little bit. The capital of Panama is Panama. How you like that? Panama, Panama. You don't have to learn much, do you? When they got there, guess what? There were a few churches, but not one full-time minister in the entire country, folks. 1958. Not one. Just a lot of part-time guys doing the best they could do in order to fill in the pulpits. They noticed, however, that there were a lot of people working in that area at the time, and still are, folks. It was due to the Panama Canal. And they thought, this would be a perfect place for a church. We have all of these workers, even workers from the United States of America, and we could plant a church here and the church would grow by leaps and bounds. So they did in a little place called Cristobal. It's in northern Panama, not far from the Panama Canal as it dumps into the Atlantic Ocean. Just a small church. They had 2 services, one in English for all the workers that were there, one in Spanish for any converts of the Spanish community. They continued to go back for a couple of years to Panama, doing just small mission efforts with those small groups of men. And they noticed that Latin America was ripe for the gospel of Christ. These individuals are interested. These individuals are hungry for the gospel. So they began to expand their efforts, and they did so through medical missions. If you've never been on a medical mission, it's fun. They get doctors, they get nurses, they get nurses' aides, they get dentists, they get optometrists. Anybody they can find in the medical field, they want to go on those trips. And they set up a big clinic there. In addition, they invite others to come, like preachers and just members of the church, because they're going to do the evangelism while the medical mission does their work with the community. Folks, I've seen medical missions have lines 200, 300 deep of people waiting to get in to see a doctor, an eye doctor. They take all kinds of medicines with them. You see, those doctors can give those medicines, can they not? Know exactly what they need. All kinds of vitamins, eyeglasses, just all kinds of things during those medical missions. And while those individuals are waiting, guess what you do? You invite them to come over and have a Bible study. And there's a lot of them that'll sit down with you. They're not like the United States is now. The United States doesn't appreciate the gospel much anymore. The United States doesn't respect gospel preachers much anymore. Not down there, folks. They respect them. You know that? You go to a foreign country, you tell them that you're a minister, guess what they'll do? They'll give you the best seat in the house. You know that? Guess what the best seat might be? Might be a plastic tub. But they'll sit on the ground while you sit on a plastic tub. It's unbelievable. So they started these medical missions. 7 years later, 1965, they started what is known as the Bible School of the Americas to train preachers of the gospel of Christ there. A preacher training school. Men from Central America entered into that school in order to be trained how to preach the gospel. And it wasn't long till the gospel began to spread. And it spread to Costa Rica. It spread to Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador. Men from South America started coming to class, and the gospel spread to Peru, Colombia, Argentina, and we used to call it Chile, but now you have to say it correctly, Chile. Isn't that right? I picked up a newsletter the other day and started reading, and folks, the results have been phenomenal, you know it. Over 80 full-time ministers have been trained to preach the gospel. The preacher training school is no longer a one-room house. It is now located on 25 sprawling acres. And there's also a children's home located now in Panama. This comes from a recent newsletter. We have 17 students at the Bible school who are trained to become ministers of the gospel and will return to their native countries for a lifetime of preaching. We have 86 preachers in 8 different Latin American countries who serve as ministers of the gospel 52 weeks a year. In other words, they're stressing, we now have what? 82 full-time ministers in Latin America. Folks, most of those individuals are supported with outside monies, not by their personal congregations. That's what makes that a big deal, you know it? It's not easy to support that many men on money that you have to raise from outside sources. Notice this, there are 195 congregations and 372 individuals who are a part of long-term mission efforts. Isn't that something? 195 churches have sent individuals to assist Latin American missions in their efforts. That's a lot of churches. And guess what? OceanSide is one of them. We've gone on a couple of campaigns with Latin American missions. There's 4 main works, 4 main efforts that Latin American missions is involved in. The first one is this, the Bible School of the Americas. I looked through publication after publication after publication. I went on the website, 2 of them in fact. I could never find a picture of all 25 acres. That's what I wanted. Folks, those are just the dorms in which the preachers live. The second work they are involved in, medical and evangelistic campaigns. That list right there comes from 2017. There are 13 weeks of medical missions lined up in various countries throughout Latin America. Some of them are medical missions, some of them are evangelistic missions, and you'll notice on there that they have what is known as a Yes To mission. They take many young people and conduct a Yes Week down there through the summertime. Usually there's about 40 to 50 individuals on any one of those trips that you might go on. And folks, you can go on any one of them that are listed. All you got to do is call, sign up, fill out a few forms, and get yourself down there. Unbelievable. A third work, benevolence. You say, well, benevolence, yep. There's not one of those preachers who have medical insurance. Not one of those full-time preachers. So when they get sick, when their family gets sick, They have a fund that's been set up in order to help provide money for those preachers when they get sick. Sometimes those individuals lose their support. It's not hard for a supporting congregation. Send a letter. In 2 months, we're dropping our $500 a month support. How'd you like for your employer just to call you in and say, hey, a couple of weeks, I'm going to drop your support. Drop your salary by about $3 or $4 an hour. Just can't afford you anymore. That takes a hit, doesn't it, on a family? So they try to provide money to support those preachers when they lose support. And two, there's times when disasters strike Central and South America. Hurricanes, floods, earthquakes. Folks, here's a picture of Peru after it suffered an earthquake. Here's some flooding that transpired immediately following a hurricane that hit one of the Latin American nations. And when that transpires, they immediately go in and try to start the rebuilding process for preachers' homes and for church buildings. And that all comes out of benevolence. The last thing that they engage in is the printing and translating of various publications. That began in 1990 at the Forest Park congregation. There's a man and his wife, a man by the name of Charles Renfro and his wife Martha, who are in the printing business. He gave all of that up. He went out and he rounded up funds and he moved to Valdosta and started a print shop there at the church. And folks, now they print all kinds of tracts, all kinds of Bible school material, all kinds of books for the preachers and for the churches that are located in Latin America. Those commentaries that you see there are the Gospel Advocate commentaries. Almost all of them now have been translated into Spanish, have been bound, and those preachers can at least have one set of commentaries that are translated in Spanish. 4 unbelievable works. I wanted to leave you with several pictures of the area. The first, again, that's the Bible School of the Americas. Here are some of the students that are studying. Notice that their wives are there. They conduct classes for the wives as well. And there's one of the graduating classes. I looked at that and I said, look at them guys. They all got on the same suit, same shirt, same ties. The children's home. That's a family of 4 that came into the home. It wasn't long until the state came in and the state said, no, we're going to send them back to their parents. They sent them back for just a few months, and finally this 4 got to come back to the children's home, and now they're there on a permanent basis. Here's one of the families that takes care of those children, and not long ago they did a big fundraising campaign in order to build a playground there at the children's home for all the kids that they have in their care. That's a church building in Latin America. Looks a little different than OceanSide, doesn't it? Most of those buildings are nothing more than just block buildings. You walk inside and this is what the congregation looks like most of the time. Just a bunch of Christians sitting around. Notice the chairs. Plastic chairs. But wouldn't you be thrilled if we just took our pews out and brought in plastic? Remove the air conditioning. Take out the windows. Y'all be tickled to death on Sunday, wouldn't you? We lose 90% of our membership. I'm going to Arlington. OceanSide gone crazy down there. Those, they don't have any of that down there. You know that? None of that is down there. Sometimes there may be only just a few lights strung up on the ceiling. When it comes gospel meeting time, guess what? A lot of times it's all outside. And there's not even a tent that you sit under. We made mention of the campaigns. There's one that's got about 50 individuals in that campaign. Another one, about 40 individuals in that campaign. If OceanSide wants to go, we would get up a group, maybe 5, 10, 15 individuals. We get all of our tickets and we fly down to Miami. And guess what? 2 or 3 other churches would do exactly the same thing. And usually you just about all meet in Miami. If not, you'll all meet in whatever Latin American country you're going to. So you get to meet all kinds of new Christians, make new friends. When you start evangelizing, you split up into groups of 4 or 5 individuals. One of those is usually a translator. Most of the individuals that you'll come in contact with, especially in the interior, don't know English very well. Now, the younger people will, but a lot of times the elderly don't know any English whatsoever. You sit around in a big circle, and guess what? You just preach and you just teach. It's not knock a door and hand them a flyer and keep walking. You knock a door, hello, we're from such and such church. We'd love to study the Bible. Come on in. We'd love to have you in and study. And they'll sit down with you 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Before you leave, you'll say, can we come back tomorrow? Oh yeah, come back tomorrow. There's some studies going all week long. We went to one lady who, she had a little roadside shop there. And we went back there 3 days and taught that lady. We'd be teaching, somebody come up and buy a soda, she'd sell it, and she'd turn back around. We'd just keep talking. They want you there. They want to hear. They're interested in the gospel of Jesus Christ, folks. And here's the point, isn't it? The salvation of the souls of men and women. That's the point. To try to get out there and do as much as we possibly can in order to bring individuals to Jesus Christ. How many of you will ever make a trip to Latin America to preach the gospel of Christ? Probably hardly anybody. I bet nobody has it on their plan book, do you? But guess what? We can do it, can't we? By supporting Latin American missions. That's the 2017 campaign totals. They made mention of their medical missions. They saw 7,993 people in 2017 through medical missions. That's how many patients came through, folks. That is a bunch of folks. You divide that into 13 weeks. That's still a lot, isn't it? To see every week. Notice that the baptisms, 146 baptisms, 32 restorations. When you and I support Latin American missions, we become a part of that fellowship, don't we? And you and I become part of those kind of results. It's a wonderful thought to think that we can have fellowship in the gospel in that area of the world, isn't it?